All right, family. I am live and trying to get myself situated here. I was trying to do a video. I tell you, this YouTube thing, baby, look at her. I was trying to do a video and literally my iMovie app, which I use, for some reason just wouldn't download. I even tried to go back in the App Store and re-download it. And it just wouldn't. Talking about space on my phone, and then I deleted some stuff and it still didn't work. Well, I tell you, ooh, if I was a conspiracy theorist, I swear, they be tapping into our phones and carrying on. So who knows, honey? These apps, they be selling your information and tapping into your microphone and your cameras, and who knows what else they doing, child. But welcome, family. Greetings and gratitude. Once again, thank you for traveling. Thank you for traveling. It's one of those days. Thank you for tuning in to my African Centered Travel Vlog right here on YouTube. My name is Akila. And in today's video, I want to elaborate on a previous video that I titled 5 Things That You Need to Know Prior to Going to Africa. And so in today's video, I'll be going over tip number 3, which is to do your research prior to traveling to the African continent. And if you need to catch up on those other tips, I will link that at the end of this particular video. And so let's see. Before we get started, I really want to, because I know that world traveling, can overwhelm a lot of people. When you think about Africa, because of all the negative information we've been conditioned with, a lot of people just, emotionally, us Africans in the diaspora, especially, there's an emotional decision about a trip to Africa. So I've already accepted that fact that it's emotional for us, and I just try to work with my people. So I just want to start off by giving a few general facts for those first-time travelers, those that don't know much about Africa, right? So Africa is a continent, right? The second largest continent, some would even argue the first. There are about 54 countries within the African continent. And I know a lot of my people are concerned with safety. But let me tell you, literally, most of those African countries are way more safe than right here in America. Let me say that again. Out of those 54 countries within the continent, a lot of those countries are way safer than right here in America. African citizens do not carry guns. And so you just won't find a big violent gun culture like you have here in America. Now, am I saying that crimes don't happen on the continent? Of course not, right? And I'm not even considering the Middle East. And I say the Middle East because there's no such thing as a Middle West or a Middle South. This is really North Africa, but society does not consider the Middle East Africa. So for the sake of making my point, neither will I, right? Because I don't want to, that's kind of like what Dr. Moonby says about stories for other days. I don't want to talk about the Arab countries and the violence that you see on TV, because like I said, for the sake of making my point, society does not consider that Africa, and neither will I, right? So the point is, for the most part, out of those 54 countries, most of those countries are way more peaceful than right here in America. And if you don't believe me, prior to traveling, all you have to do is contact the U.S. Embassy and ask them, Do they have any travel advisories for that particular country that you're traveling to? And they'll let you know if there are any wars or instabilities or anything in that particular country. But do your research. The life expectancy is longer than right here in America and many of those African countries. Seriously, safety, for the most part, is not a big issue. Okay. Um, and when I talk about safety, I mean like violent crimes, like right here in America. You won't find police officers shooting their citizens over a traffic stop in Africa. That is a Western issue, mainly America. Ka 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 ka. Okay, so with that being said, the three things that you need to research prior to going to Africa would be GDP, um, national language, and currency exchange. And so, if you're unfamiliar, GDP just basically means the gross domestic product, which relates to the goods and services that are produced within a country, right? This will give you an idea of how stable the currency is and how well the economy is doing it. And don't get me wrong, I am not an expert on the subject. I am learning as I go. Um, but this is what I could suggest for a first time traveler too, because I know a lot of our people literally like depending on what country, again, these are 54 different countries and all of them are in different stages of development, right? And so my suggestion for a first time traveler, you just don't want to go to the poorest country in Africa if you've never been, you know. That would be my suggestion because I know a lot of my people who look like me and that's who this channel is for. That's who I'm talking to, right? um a lot of us have never even traveled outside of our hood, long less the country. So, with that being said, I think about how, like, literally, the contact with nature for most of us doesn't go beyond a Labor Day picnic barbecue at the park, you know? So to go to the poorest country in Africa where there's a lack of infrastructure, that can be quite of a culture shock, for some people. So again, before you look it up, I can tell you most of the uh, most developed countries within the African continent would be like South Africa, um, Rwanda, Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya. Those are some of the more developed countries on the continent. And so, yeah, so GDP is something you want to look up and you want to compare that number to where you're coming from. You want to compare that number to other African countries. And that'll kind of give you an idea of how developed that particular African country is. And like I said, most of these all of these 54 countries within the continent have a capital city that is like urban hustle bustle, something similar to what you would see if you're coming from places like North America or Europe or something like that. Okay. Um, and so after looking up the GDP, you definitely want to find out about currency exchange. That's another way of letting you know how developed the how stable the currency is and how developed the country is. Now, I'm not going to suggest a specific currency exchange company because there's so many out there. All you have to do is just Google currency exchange, and so you'll find out that for every $1 American, there's like 300 and something Nigerian nairas, or for every $1 American, it's like five something Ghana cedis. And so this will kind of prepare you in knowing how far your money will stretch, how much money you need to bring with you. For your trip. And national language is important because national language basically is the language of the colonizers that is taught in the schools. And so when you go to the continent, you'll find that there are many, many, many different languages of the local languages. And that's because there are many, many different tribes. But as far as the national language, which is that of the colonizers, you'll find you need to find a national language and you need to find a country with a national language that is the language you speak, if that makes sense. So if you speak English, you want to go to a country where the national language is English. You don't want to speak English and then go to a French speaking country because you won't know any of the local languages unless you've been there before, you've been studying. But for the most part, you won't know any of the local languages. And so the national language needs to match what you speak, or you might even have a hard time finding a meal, right? And so, also in reference to languages, the locals find it very impressive if you know a few local words. So, learning a few greetings, will also help you with communication and stuff while you're there. And so, I think that's good. That's important too. So, YouTube is a good resource for that. So, like, you want to find out what is the dominant tribe of that particular country, and whatever the dominant tribe of that particular country is, then you want to find out what their language is. And you can go on YouTube and find some tutorials for basic greetings and stuff in that language. So, like for Ghana, I think it's the Akan people, and they speak Tree, which is spelled Twi. And so, again, like I said, you can go on YouTube and find some content creators that will help you with some tutorials on speaking the language. And so that's pretty helpful. Um, I know a lot of our people, last but not least, a lot of our people worry about where do I fit in? I don't know where I fit into Africa. So how do I even begin researching? Don't overthink it. Because, honey, let me tell you, if I offered you a ticket to Paris, a free ticket to Paris, you'd be somewhere talking about, oui, oui, mademoiselle, bonjour, and you don't know nobody there. So don't worry about not being able to fit in. You overthinking it. That's that fear factor again, how we talk ourselves out of anything that has to do with Africa. But if you that type of person, then I'm not even talking to you. I'm talking to somebody who literally has an interest. I don't have to convince you that Africa is the future. You already know it. You feel it in your spirit. Those are the people that I'm talking to. And so um, don't overthink it. You don't have to know where you fit in or where you belong. You belong everywhere on the continent, because that's where your DNA came from. So, um, oh, that was the point I wanted to make. Worrying about where you belong. You don't need to worry about where you belong, but I would say you do need to surround yourself with like-minded thinking people, right? Other people who value Africa, other people who think highly of Africa. And let me give you a few suggestions on how you find those type of people. Social media is a good place to find groups of people who think highly of Africa, who travel to Africa with a Pan-African mindset. I think Facebook has a lot of travel groups. And as far as touring and travel groups of that nature, I want to shout out to Africa for the Africans by Bomani Tahimba. I took one of his tours to Ghana, and I would definitely recommend it for anybody else. So just Google Africa for the Africans by Bomani Tahimba. And I think he's on Facebook and YouTube, and I think he's on Instagram. I'm not sure. But yeah, he has different tours all over Africa, and it's a good resource. And so, in addition to searching for different travel groups and things of that nature, like-minded people who love Africa, I would also suggest finding Black-owned bookstores. Um, Cultural museums, cultural centers, and things of that nature in the urban areas of your city um, is where you can find Pan-African like-minded people. Because when you start talking about taking a trip to Africa, trust me, your family and your friends will give you the most negative feedback. They will even say things to scare you. And it's all because of their own negative conditioning and misinformation and miseducation that they have about Africa, right? I told you this is like a spiritual, psychological decision for most of us Africans in the diaspora because of the slave trade and all the negative history surrounding Africa. A lot of our people tend to, and the negative conditioning and stuff that we've gotten over the centuries, from media and well, I can't say centuries from media, but well, you could say, yeah, maybe not broadcasting from the TV for centuries, but you know what I mean. There's just a lot of negative. There's nothing really ever positive about Africa coming from mainstream media. And so, a lot of people are conditioned with those thoughts. And so they will negatively talk you. I'll tell you quickly about this one story. It was a lady, this guy that I knew when I was in Ghana. He was dating um, a lady that he knew from America, had been dating the lady over the internet for like 3 years. They had been talking, developing a relationship. And he kept begging her and begging her and begging her to come take a visit um, to Ghana to come meet him officially so they can, get their relationship started. And she was just so scared of taking that trip. And so he would ask me to talk to her, to kind of convince her. And, maybe if she saw another African American on the continent, that, she wouldn't be so afraid. And literally, this lady was telling me about how she had even booked a trip and canceled it at the last minute because of something an African who was from the continent that was living in the diaspora told her about Africa. And she canceled her trip. I told her, well, girl, I don't know how much longer that brother gonna wait on you. Just saying. I'm just saying. You know, there's a lot of fears and again, like-minded people. I encourage you to get around some like-minded people. If you feel like you're the only person in your family and friends, circle of family and friends that think like you do, you know, get around some like-minded people because those people will dim your light. They will dim your light with their ignorance. So, again, Black-owned bookstores, cultural museums, social media travel groups are great places to find Pan-African like-minded people who hold Africa in high regards. And so I think I'll conclude everything there. I didn't have much today, but just to go over tip number 3, which was to do your research on the African country that you will be traveling to. And so with that being said, I'm done here, guys. I did what I came to do. So remember, Black love is Black power. And I'll see you in the next video.